Hi guys. Today I'm going to do our first video lesson. I'm sorry I couldn't be here today. Whenever you feel like, you are welcome to pause the video. You're welcome to rewind the video and just anything you need to do to help your learning. Okay, so our lesson today is all about multiplying whole numbers with fractions. Alright, and once we get down to it, you'll see that it's actually pretty simple. Okay, so let's start out our lesson by recapping what we learned last time. Okay, I'm going to go up to the chart that we had. Okay, and some of the things that we discovered was that multiplying fractions with whole numbers is related to multiplication and division, we noticed. Also, we noticed that when you are multiplying, I think this was Gabe's strategy, he noticed that when we multiplied times 1/4, sorry if you can see it there, there was something about dividing it by the 4 to get the 3. We kind of saw it here too. This was a little bit less clear how we got from 2/3 and 12 to 8. But by the end of this lesson, this will make sense how we got from here to here. Okay, so let's bring it back. I'm going to rewind a little bit to your 3rd grade experience. Okay, and let me write this down on a whiteboard. You learned in 3rd grade that with multiplication, one way that we can think of that is repeated addition. Okay, so for example, for 3/4, we would actually have 3 groups of 4. And I'm going to go ahead and write that down for you. So another way to think of 3 times 4 is 4 plus 4 plus 4, 3 groups of 4. Okay? Now, that's pretty easy and none of you have any trouble with that, but let's replace the 4. Instead of 3 groups of 4, now let's write a fraction. Looks formidable, but it's actually pretty simple. Now, instead of 3 groups of 4, we just have 3 groups of 3/4. So let me write it out for you. There you go. Now we can have a much simpler problem to solve. Instead of having to be like, oh my gosh, what do we do with that multiplication symbol? All we got to do is remember that multiplication is repeated addition. So we have 3 groups of 3/4, 3/4 plus 3/4 plus 3/4. Well, that equals 9/4. Okay? Equals 9/4. Or if we were to simplify that, 2 and 1/4. Pretty simple, huh? Alright, let's do another one. What if we had, this time, instead of 3 groups, let's have 4 groups of 2/3. Why don't you take a moment to see if you can use repeated addition to figure this one out? You're welcome to pause the video here. So at this point, you've probably written out 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3, or 4 groups of 2/3, which is the same thing as 8/3 when we add them all up. Okay? Or if we're to simplify that, 2 and 2/3. 2 and 2/3. Okay? Now, I bet at this point you notice something. Okay? We could, of course, use repeated addition as a strategy. Okay? So we had 4 groups of 2/3. 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3. Well, another way to write that, a simpler way to write that, is actually just doing this. 4 times our 2 over our thirds. Okay? That's the same thing as saying 2/3, 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3. 4 groups of it. Okay? and that's going to equal 8/3. The same exact thing that we got. This is just a different way to visualize it. Okay? Let's do another one. And let's use this new strategy where we're multiplying the numerator, the top number. Okay? How about if we do 8 groups of 5, 6? You think you can get this one? Pause the video here to try it yourself. Alright, so at this point you have probably written your new fraction like this down here with your numerator times by 8, multiplied by 8, and you get 46. Okay? Or that would be 6 and 4/6, or simplifying that, 6 and 2/3. There we go. Oops. 6 and 2/3 simplified. Okay? Alright, so hopefully at this point you feel a little bit more comfortable with multiplying fractions. It's actually pretty simple. We talked about how multiplying fractions is the same thing as repeated addition, and then we moved on and we learned a strategy where instead of having to add each numerator 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3 plus 2/3, for example, we would just multiply our numerator times the whole number that we were given. So 4 in that case. 4 times 2 is 8, 8/3. Okay? So hopefully by this point you feel a little bit more comfortable. Of course, you can go back and watch this video again if you feel like it. If not, you're good to go, and good luck.